Focus High School.
Good morning all. Welcome to the first panel discussion of this segment. Here in this panel discussion we will be again exchanging thoughts on recruiting and retaining great teachers in affordable private schools. So we have with us these experts in their own fields. Let me introduce once again, we have Professor Ritesh from the Associate Professor from India, from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, also the Chair of Azim Premji Foundation for Schools. And then we have Mr. Adi, somebody who is the top man in the 321 Education Foundation, an organization I know from very close quarters. We have with us Mirza Irfan Beg, eminent school leader from Grace Model School. Then we have Ms. Kausar Saeed, also at the top in Early Childhood Association. So welcome all. I welcome you all to the discussion panel. The theme itself is very itself evident, and it's one of the most emerging situations in affordable private schools. Hiring and retaining good quality teachers is a growing problem, and some of you are also involved in hosting campus placements for teachers. So in that context, I would request you to first exchange your thoughts with the audience. We'll take about 5 minutes for each of you, and then I'll probably ask questions and also take up questions from the audience. So I'll start from Professor Ritesh.
A very good morning to everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my views over here on this podium. I must admit at the outset that the theme is quite broad in its nature and also quite challenging for many of us who have been thinking about this issue for some time. I would rather than dwelling more on the theme itself, I would like to bring in some observations from literature, research, and our work with some of the teachers that we have done over these years. One of the problems, and I think which has been raised in the morning talk and also the session following that, is the idea of a good teacher and what a good teacher means for the society as a whole, not just to students, not just to parents, but to the society as a whole. It implies that there is this profession, which is just like, and I am re-invoking the professions that have been invoked, which is medicine and engineering, where we see, teachers not to be considered, at par, not just monetarily, but also in terms of professional understanding, at par with doctors, lawyers, or engineers. What could be the reason behind it? And, to my mind, there are several reasons. Perhaps we may not be able to list in 5 minutes, but I would quickly address 3 issues that come to my mind and which I've just jotted down. I think one of the things is that there are huge expectations from a teacher. Once you become a teacher, after doing your D.Ed, B.Ed, or any degree, which is a 4-year B.Ed. So there are a lot of expectations from a variety of people, from the principal, from the peers, from the students, from students' parents. Also, not of what is being taught, but also how it is to be taught. Seldom would we actually question a doctor or a surgeon and say, oh, is your content knowledge okay for doing a surgery? Seldom will we question a lawyer, are you capable of handling my case? But we do it rampantly, perhaps, for a teacher. Okay? So what gives a kind of a authority to a teacher in this present context of teaching learning is a concern that I would like to raise, and perhaps we need to address that. The other idea which is related to profession is about teacher giving the content. Okay, so largely the basis for looking at teacher or understanding teacher is in terms of how much content he or she can handle or manage. I'm thinking about it, and at some point it seems to me like teacher is a dispensing machine who's dispensing knowledge in a particular fashion. I'm sorry for using these harsh words, but perhaps, that is a kind of a perception that is held at large. But when we go at the reflections about who is a good teacher, we find that many of us relate to those experiences with teacher, which are more, of an engagement into learning, of going through challenges, struggling and failing, emerging out of the difficult context, okay, or trying to make a distinct mark in terms of whatever learning we are making. All these are essential composites of what go into a good teacher, and we would not perhaps hesitate to say this as well. So what makes us to give this valued perspective of a teacher? Perhaps one thing is at the entry point itself, which is the B.Ed programs. And as some of the teachers have rightly pointed out, perhaps we need to upgrade the quality of education, which would lead to making of a teacher. The curriculum of B.Ed perhaps need to be reinvigorated to encompass contemporary issues that are related to education or the context of learning. And this is something that we could really look at. And the other part of it, which I feel is a challenge in terms of retaining as well as recruiting, is trying to figure out if the teacher is able to strike a balance between, the idea of freedom in classroom and critical engagement in the classroom. So it seems paradoxical, but it has a value in the way learners engage with knowledge. And if a teacher is able to strike that balance, I think it is one of the most efficient ways of engaging into learning and, teaching part of it. And I would like to, because the time is short, I would like to highlight the third aspect which comes to my mind is strengthening of the school ethos. Over the years, through these experiences of teachers, there is a body of knowledge that has been assimilated, which we seldom acknowledge. The body of knowledge is about how we create an atmosphere of learning in school scenarios, which is quite different from the backgrounds that the students may be coming from. It gives you some kind of an equitous position for all the learners. Perhaps we need to enrich that much more strongly. And here we need to take the experiences of the existing teachers into account, and also draw upon the new or the fresh perspectives that are drawing upon from research. And literature could help us. And one of the ways by which we can strengthen this is having more of conferences of this kind, where we bring on the common podium, the people who are working in the field, people who are working in research in education, and practitioners of education. And therefore, we can develop an ethos. And I think the last part of it is we need to build and sustain a community, of people like-minded, moving towards a common goal of good education through these conferences and similar such podia. TISS, at this podia, I must admit that TISS as a university, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, is not a private university. It is a public-funded UGC deemed university, and we would be happy to interact and engage with more interactions with teachers and students. And this is a welcome opportunity, and I use this podium to make this.
Thank you so much, Professor Ritesh. Adi, can we have your thoughts on this? For the sake of your convenience and world peace, may I just show you the clock? Over here?
That'll scare me further. Otherwise, I'll be done before that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Right. Please start.
Okay. Hi, everybody. For the first 20 years of my life, I've been in a room where there's one teacher standing on stage and the other students there. But today it's the other way around. All the teachers are there and the student is here. I'm a student of the budget private school sector. I've spent a lot of years doing this work, and today I'm just here to share with you what I've learned from a lot of people in this room that have been very important to me in the last few years. First, my name is Adi. I'm from 321 Education Foundation. I was one of the founding team members for the teacher training division of our organization. We do what we do, and I do what I do for For four big reasons. First is we want to magnify the spirit of teaching, right? And we want to be able to bring the prestige back to teaching that has been missing for all these years, right? So that's the first thing that we're trying to do. The second thing that we're trying to do is magnify the learner in every educator. Third is build tools for the modern educator. And fourth is magnify the focus on schools as a system. Over the course of these last 7 years, we've worked primarily on the first two pieces, which is magnifying the prestige of teaching. That means bringing back the glory that teaching had. And the second was to magnify the learner in every educator. And today I want to share with you a couple of things that have stood out to me from my work here. The first one is that when we give teachers the right environment, teachers thrive, right? And by thrive, I mean they teach better, they perform better, they're happier, they're more motivated, and they stay in the profession for longer. When we are not able to give the teachers the right environment to work in, we will see that teachers struggle in their early years, and many of them leave the profession within the first few years itself. So today I'm going to share with you two approaches which might lead to these things. The first approach is largely called the 20th century management approach, which is where importance is on compliance. Okay, is the person I'm managing, is the person that is on my team complying to the rules and regulations that there are, right? However, science and research says very different things. Science and research, what science and research knows and what organizations believe in are very different things. What we need to do rather is work on employee or team engagement rather than team compliance, right? And once we take our focus to team engagement, there will be people on our team who will perform better, who will stay in the profession for longer, and get masters at what they're doing. And this might be a very important factor in building retention among the teachers. We run an organization, we've had about 80 people on the team over the course of the last few years, with close to 93% retention of our staff, because we put a lot of focus on building employee engagement rather than employee compliance. And how we do that is by three things, right? Purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Purpose, people will be engaged with the work that they're doing if they feel a sense of purpose. Purpose means that they are doing something which is greater than themselves, right? A lot of you in this room have been running schools for many years because you feel that you are doing work which is larger than yourself. Second is autonomy, which is the desire to run the life you want to run the way you want to run it. And third is mastery. That means if people feel that they're getting better, if people feel that they're improving, they will be more engaged. And this will lead people to stay in the profession for longer. So if we change our outlook from building organizations with a compliant set of people versus a set of people that are really engaged with the work that they're doing and really engaged with the organization, I'm sure that teachers and other people on on your teams will stay in the profession for longer, thereby addressing a very important challenge that most schools face, which is retention. So if we're able to give the teachers purpose, autonomy and mastery, I can assure you that teachers will stay in the profession longer, feel better about being teachers, and feel better about doing this for the rest of their lives. So, yeah.
Thank you, Adi. Irfan Saab, can we have your thoughts on this theme?
A very good morning. First of all, I'm thankful to the organizers for giving me the opportunity and making me sit with these dignitaries and speak in front of so many dignitaries and so many school leaders who are having more experience than me. So, a small brief about me. Myself, Irfan Beg, running a school by name Grace Model in Old City, Subjamandi area from last 16 years. So here I'll be talking about the ground reality because I'm running the school, so what challenges I face. As the topic says, recruiting and retaining a great teacher. To be frank, I'm thankful that we are talking about retaining great teachers. That means quality teachers, not qualified teachers. Because it's a big challenge to get a qualified teacher, and the data shows, which we are not going to talk about it now, okay, how many vacancies are available and how much issues are happening. So, recruiting a teacher, it's really a challenge for an affordable private school to recruit a teacher because there is a lack of teachers in the market. And I will share one of the example which one of my friends says, okay, if somebody walks in and says that I want to work as a teacher, and when he asks him where is your CV or biodata, and if they present a plain paper, he will welcome them. That much scarcity is there for the teachers. Means you need to take someone inside, then make them a teacher. That's the challenge we are facing now. And then the other thing is, these teachers, as I am telling, they are not that much qualified, but as we search in the students, we always say that there is some hidden talent in each student which we have to bring out. It's the same with the teachers. They too have some hidden talent that a school leader should search and take out. How it can be happen and how can we recruit them for a long time. The thing is, we should set up, as a school leader, you will be having your own boundaries and challenges. In that, give them a space, let them open up their minds, come up with their innovative ideas and work. And if they should not feel lonely, so give them a buddy teacher, some experienced teacher which are already working with you, so that they won't feel lonely. And then, can we keep them for a long time? Yes, we can keep them for a long time if we keep giving them, encourage them and give them improve them professionally and personally. How? If you take the case of mine, it was earlier a challenge for me to keep the teachers for a long time. But now then we started working with different organizations which come up and train the teachers, but in a good manner where the teachers enjoy working as a teacher, where they feel we know now how to really work as a teacher. And at the same time, we encourage the teachers, because as I said, most of them are not qualified, we encourage them to continue their studies. We tell them, okay, it's not just working with my school, in the future you may go further. So please continue your studies, go further, and at least through distance mode, we push them to complete the graduation or post-graduation, and sometimes we even financially help them. These are the things which help us to retain them. And and then another things, the challenges are on the ground level. It's really qualified teachers are really difficult to get, but as we are working on and we are retaining, I can share my own things. Okay, we have now, alhamdulillah, around 7 teachers who are working with us more than 5 years. And at the same time, pulling the teachers from high-end schools to our schools. Is it possible? It is possible. I will give you an example. So we have one parent who is a lecturer who used to teach in the junior college. But the way we are working, she got very much inspired, And then she started working with us for 2 years as a volunteer, and now she's from last 2 years she's working full time with us, leaving her job. So I mean to say that you need to show the cause for which you are running this affordable private school. You need to make others realize that you are really working for the community. It's not commercial. And when they understand your purpose, definitely they will join you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irfan Saab. Now, can we have Ms. Kausar's thoughts on this topic?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about recruiting and retaining teachers. I am the territory head for an early childhood association and also the founder of a company called Learn to Lead. Both this NGO, ECA, and my company are working relentlessly towards empowering teachers and the school community. I've started my career as a teacher. So I've been a teacher, I've been a school leader, and then now I've also been helping schools to set up. So I can actually tell you from the perspective of being a teacher. And for that perspective, let me start from the recruiting part. What I understand is the recruiting process of just an interview and a demo that we take probably doesn't justify to the profession of being a teacher. A teaching process or a teacher is a skill, and it's an ongoing process. So probably just judging them on that one-day platform and then recruiting them and then expecting so much from them later on and judging at every part of it is really, really stressful to be a teacher. When you talk about the educational perspective of being a professional teacher, I would disagree with you that B.Ed is not a comprehensive program and it needs more value to be added. B.Ed is a very beautiful program. The 9-month of course that they give and the enrichment through the workshops and through the projects that they give is a very, very beautiful program under a circumstance that the college takes every part of the program seriously. And they actually make them go through the program very seriously. The entire agenda of this problem, today we are discussing this on the stage with hundreds of leaders out here is because this is a problem. We all know that this is a problem. Teachers are not retaining. We don't have teachers to recruit. And as you have said that they're doctors and engineers and why not teachers? So we need to work on that more than retaining teachers. That's what I say. Start from the beginning. Start to understand that why are we not able to instigate or why are we not able to make our young generation feel that teaching profession is a profession which can give them a lot more than what they think. Why is it being so demoralized or why is it so? How many of us present out here are really proud to be a teacher from day one? That's a different thing, that it's a service-oriented program and you start feeling good when you give back to children. But how many of you are teachers or school leaders because you wanted to be one from the age of 5 or 6? Did you ever dream of being one? So that's the problem. We all have landed to become teachers, not by choice, but by chance. We have not chosen to be educators. And we're just trying to fix ourselves here and there and trying to put ourselves into the mode. And that's where the problems comes. Teaching has to start coming in from the school level. How many of you also want your children to become teachers? How many of you recommend your teachers to your children to go do a B.Ed and become a teacher? You'll have an awesome career. Do we say that? No. So that's the point. When we don't believe in our profession ourselves, and how do we solve this problem hereafter? Here I would also say that it's not just the school who holds the responsibility, but it is also some moves that the government should also take for this profession. How much will one school be able to give to a teacher? You need some government support. The government has to come in to give funds to train the teachers. The government has to come in to give such kind of enrichment workshops and conferences where they feel proud to be a teacher. So I have 45 seconds. No, I'll keep my time. They'll come back to me with questions and we can cover it up. And with retention, I basically feel the problem is with the mental happiness of a teacher. They are too much expected, they're too much we are expecting from a teacher. Everything boils down to a teacher ultimately. We always talk about the three components to a school: a parent, the teacher, and the student. The management, the parent, and the student. Management is so engrossed or so busy dealing with parents and keeping them happy that they have forgotten teachers' happiness. And every responsibility boils down to a teacher. Even our Ayamma doesn't come, she takes care that the class is sorted. That's the problem. They need more empowerment. We need more roles in the management, as in a counselor. We need an in-house trainer in your college. B.Ed will give you the basic information, but there is so much that keeps coming every month, which is not reaching teachers. So they need to have enrichment programs. There has to be an in-house trainer. There has to be an in-house counselor for the teachers. There are days where they may not feel good about it. It is okay if they don't take a class that day. And the management has to realize that part. When that happens, then a family bonding will happen and probably retention becomes much easier. Apart from the aspect of low pay scale for teachers, which I feel, again, the government should intervene and take care that the 30% of the salaries are being paid by them. And there are some services which comes to teacher. Their health should be insured. They should be given pensions. Why not? We together as a community, if we fight, somebody please get up and start the fight. Then probably this field will get that importance which it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kosar, for let us have a wonderful, let us have a round of applause for the speakers, for their thoughts, and I'll quickly open up questions. You have opened a very interesting line of thought, and I have a very specific question for Mr. Irfan. Like, you are the person who hires and retains teachers in a budget school. So when you train teachers, as you said, I understand it's difficult to hire very high quality teachers monetarily, but you train teachers and you make them great over a period of time. And have you faced situation when these great teachers leave your school for better prospects? How do you handle those situations?
So this was the issue with each and every school. If we train our teachers, they will leave us one day. But if we think that way, then when we are going to train the teachers and when we are going to give the best to our students. So it happens, but it has decreased now because we were successful in making them understand that we are professionally improving you and that should retain with us. So they are understanding that. And in that, like we tie up with different organizations like 3-to-1, which give them management skills, and they're enjoying that a lot.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Professor Ritesh, I would like to know from you, because TISS is also does placements, campus placements, and teachers are hired from your institute, trained teachers. So, what is your take on this process of, how many budget schools or affordable schools are able to finally take the talent from your place?
I guess it was a reflective pause. So, I must admit that we've started in Hyderabad in 2011 with a MPhil PhD program and a master's program in 2014. So we are relatively quite young in that sense in Hyderabad, okay? Although we have more than 80 years of presence in the country. This question is significant because it relates to the qualification norms or standards that are posed by the government. The NCT or the MHRD says that with a B.Ed degree or a M.Ed degree, you can, or a D.Ed degree, you can become teachers at various levels. Whereas the university offers MA in education, a Masters of Arts in Education. Now that acronym leads to a slight, change from a deviation from the norms that are there. While we have many students who go into low budget private schools and also government schools, this kind of norm comes into play at several places. So in most of the places where our students are recruited, it is largely on the basis of their engagement with the research work that they have been doing, and also some bit of an experience of working with schools that fetches them a position in the schools. So we may not have many students right now, but we see many of our students getting into variety of schools, government as well as private, high-end and low-budget schools as well.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Adi, I would like to know, since your organization is working with budget schools in the old Hyderabad right now, and that makes a case for this question, do you see a change in the perspective of social investment from the side of the schools and the managements to go one step extra and hire good quality teachers or good quality school leaders and retain them for better growth?
So I'm just paraphrasing. You mean to ask, are schools investing in hiring better teachers or retaining better teachers?
Yes,
Is
are
that
they
what-
developing the perspective of social investment in this direction?
Yeah, so I think there are mixed views that I have about this. There are a lot of schools and principals which are thinking about developing teachers and thinking of what they can do now with the current ecosystem that they have, rather than saying okay, someone else should do this, someone else should do this, we will fold our hands and sit and wait for someone to do something. There are a lot of people that are doing this right now. The people who are doing this are thinking from the perspective of their children tomorrow and their children today, and thinking from the lens of the teachers that I have right now are the teachers who really want to do this. Are the teachers who've come here, they come here day and night. So what can I do to support them, and what can I do to make them better so that they are able to stay in this profession for longer? So that's the general observations that I've seen from most of the schools. If you have anything to add, please.
Yeah, if you would like to add to this question, you may please do that.
With teacher retention, there was 2 points that I wanted to add at that point. I really feel that schools should look into the timings that they expect the teachers to give to the school. We have a real strong restrictions on a 8 or a 8:30 login and a 4 and 5 o'clock logout. Instead of that, why don't we talk about a productive time of the teacher? That you have these 4 hours in the school and you are a good math teacher. So just come teach for this 4 hours and this is how we pay you. And it is okay if they can, then they manage another school where they go and teach another 4 hours. Why don't we give that flexibility to teachers where they can earn more and at the same time be more productive? Why are we so, we kind of squeeze the teachers out by making them sit 8 to 4 and there are 4 hours that they're too active and the rest of these hours that they are just sitting there. And can't we have this little change, probably one school starts the change by giving flexi timings to work, as in these are your hours, these many hours a week, and then you just come, do your work and go. And the second, can we, as I have told, we need to have more staff in the management which works on the counseling, which works on the enrichment, and a back-end team which can work, as in they can just go back home and finish their lesson plans. It can be online, it can go to the school. If we can do it more, technology being used in this perspective, then probably it will make it more happening, It
Yeah,
will
that's
make
a
the
very
profession more
interesting line of
easy and
thought.
happening.
Yes, exactly. My boss is here, and I would just want to make him sure that I didn't initiate this. I didn't hint her to talk about flexi hours, but that's again a very interesting perspective.
So, if there is one teacher, like if I am a good teacher, if I am a good science teacher, or I am a good chemistry teacher, why am I restricting myself to 500 students of one school? Probably I can deliver to 900 students by working in 3 schools, giving them 3 hours a week.
Okay, before I open up the
And
questions
that
to
will
the
probably solve this problem of.
Right. Thank you so much. Before we open up the questions to the audience, just one question. If you are free to choose to answer this question. What growth opportunities and non-monetary incentives can be constructed by these affordable private school, tangible things can be constructed by affordable private budget schools for because you all have been working in this direction. So, from your experiences, what could be these constructs? What could be offered? Because again, direct monetary benefit is sometimes beyond the reach of a budget school. So, what are your experiences, and what have you done in this regard?
The first thing, it is the same. Set them free with the time that is left. Probably they will take care of their monetary, they can increase their, if what you are not able to pay, they can take care of it.
Okay.
Probably they can themselves go and take some enriching workshops. We can also think about, schools should stop treating each other as competitions and come collaboratively towards one platform where we feel that, okay, we have a good math teacher, then why don't she go to another school as a trainer and train them? So that can add to the monetary benefit of that teacher, and at the same time, she will get more exposure. So that is probably
So
that
sharing
we can
human
think
resources could be one.
Yeah, between the
among
schools.
ourselves.
Why,
Okay.
why not we all don't stand against each other, and we stand together beside each other and we help each other. And probably that will add more monetary benefits to the teacher and not to the school, but it will definitely add in the form of value to knowledge.
That is interesting. Anybody would like to share?
Just want to say that if that's a possibility, we can have, more sustained interactions between primary and secondary school teachers, and experiences and narratives of the teachers can be brought to the fore to discuss the issues right there within the school itself. I think I'm drawing upon Shikha's study, which will make it more like a professional community which evolves within the school context and contributes to the budding teachers who are joining the school, and also to the experienced teachers, bringing them together at the same page. That's something.
Okay. So I want to start by sharing how growth is defined, right? For most of us, and for most of us young people, growth is defined by more money and better designation, right? कि अगर मुझे senior manager, director, vice president बना दिया तो मेरा growth हो रहा है. The second is अगर मुझे ये साल XYZ amount of increment मिला तो growth हो रहा है, right? Now, that is not the only definition of growth when it comes to growing as a professional, right? I do believe that financial aspect is some part of growth. It is a very important part of growth, so we can't shy away from the topic saying we're a social organization, so let's not pay people. You have to pay people to be able, for them to be able to stay in the profession and build their lives along with the profession, right? Like it's very wrong to expect कि आप अपनी life दे दो, हम आपको pay नहीं करेंगे. So you have to pay them. A truth that a lot of teachers and a lot of us have accepted, that it's not going to be equal pay to someone from the finance industry, right? What we are all looking for is fair payment, right? Are we getting paid what we feel is the value that we are giving, and what the sector largely can pay, right? More importantly, the other things that we have to look at for growth are we making them more responsible? Are we giving people more responsibility? If you give people more responsibility, they feel that they've grown. If we give people more work that they can handle, they've grown. If we give them more influence and more power to make decisions within their locus of control, they've grown. So it depends on how we define growth. So we can definitely help teachers grow by giving them more responsibility, more influence, and then we'll be fine largely.
Okay, do you have something to say? Yes.
So when we are talking about flexibility, we already have that thing. So we are having some teachers. When we come across teachers or qualified people who really are passionate about their teaching and they are really good, we give them freedom to choose their own time, and they keep coming accordingly. And as you said, sharing the resources. So we are all school leaders are working on it, and one of my friend already started planning something where online teaching, like some broadcast system will be done within Hyderabad city, and hopefully within this year it will come out. Then we can share more about that. And yeah.
Okay, thank you very much everybody on this panel. It was a great discussion on this theme. Probably because of the time, we have to stick to the time, and sticking to the time in this part of the region is nothing less than space science. So we'll have to do that and show that it works. And so probably I won't be even taking questions from the audience right now, but please go ahead and write down questions on a slip of paper and please pass it on to the volunteers. So probably you have a chance to explore those questions again, and you can also meet these experts during lunch hour and try to talk to them and ask your questions also. Thank you very much, panelists. It was wonderful talking to you on this theme. Thank you very much.
Focus High School.